meet the needs of contemporary classroom, the Metaverse steps in to reshape the learning experience and accelerate language acquisition. During this one-hour cluster presentation, they will outline the usefulness of the Metaverse in language education based on learning experiences. The presentations will unfold characteristics of the Metaverse, evolving around the affordances in different destinations in virtual reality, virtual worlds, and AI. Our cluster presenters in order will be Helena Galani, Heike Philp, Amany Alkhayat, Barbara McQueen, Doris Molero, and then Georgia Maneta. So, take it away, Helena.
Thank you, Lorraine. Thank you for the introductions. It's wonderful to be back here at Virtual Worlds Best Practices in Education. My name is Helena Galani, and we are going to tell you everything about what we've discovered through our practical experience in our classrooms or from our setups, each one of us. Let me introduce myself. I teach English to speakers of other languages immersively to young learners, teenagers, and adult learners, online, face-to-face, blended, flipped, you name it. I use virtual worlds and virtual reality with the help of artificial intelligence, and I have been EVO moderator since 2015. I'm also former educator on Edmondo for Indire and a former EAP tutor at the University of Nottingham. I'm located in Europe, in central Greece, mainly teaching English, as I said before, to speakers of other languages, or English as a foreign language, or English for academic purposes. I'm really blessed with this profession. You have a lot of options, and it keeps me busy, to be honest with you. Also, I'm involved with teaching adult learners with the Ministry of Education and Centers for Lifelong Learning. So life in Lamia in central Greece is quite exciting, as you can see. Let me tell you all about it then. I have used COL since I began teaching in Greece and the UK. That was about 30 years ago. And since 2015, I immerse my students in a variety of virtual worlds and virtual reality environments for the purposes of transmedia, storytelling, language skills, competencies, attitudes, 21st century citizenship, sustainability goals, transformative learning with my adults, game-based learning, CLIL, experiential, immersive learning. And I'm going to show you some examples of the work I'm involved in with my students. So here you can see some images. I have created certain simulations for my students, and these particular images here are examples of a simulation inspired by Alice in Wonderland, the famous children's and every age favorite story. You can find the simulation on ELT Treasure Island in Kitely, but I have also dispersed some simulations on other platforms like Frame and Mozilla Hubs also. I use game-based learning and transmediality for sustainability, like for example road safety and water, poverty, reducing poverty, safeguarding natural heritage, whatever, any type of contemporary issues that my students need to know about. Here you can see some images of my spatial exhibits or assets, let's call them, connected with artificial intelligence generated art, which my students help me generate on different AI platforms, such as mainly DALL-E. We prefer DALL-E. It's quite simple, and you can create variations by getting students to rephrase and to find the most appropriate description for the outcome they're interested in. On the top right, you can also see a picture of our destination on Spatial for young learners. It's a very nice place where they can practice the language. So let me proceed. In environments which are rather contemporary, 3D objects, videos, images are imported to fulfill the lesson aims, to display learners' projects, or to provide evidence of the learning progress. Each environment, such as Spatial, Mozilla, Frame, has different features to support lesson objectives and to bond the ties amongst the community members, motivating and facilitating the learning process. So I've shown you the images from our galleries. Virtual worlds such as Second Life and Open Simulator also lend themselves to the use of chatbots to converse with the learner. With media on a prim, learners are involved in the process of creating a knowledge base around heroes in a story, like, as you can see here, Alice in Wonderland, before chatting with the actual characters of the story. And here, in this particular program online, it's called In World, you can create a knowledge base, or you can use the existing knowledge base around the story of Alice in Wonderland, and you can expand. You can get your students to expand on it, to give some further information about what they have read in the narrative and what they have learned about the character, the behaviors, the preferences of the heroes. So how common or uncommon are the objectives you can set in virtual destinations such as Second Life, which is a very advanced environment, Open Simulator, Spatial, Mozilla, whichever. You can focus on language competencies and attitudes, students, citizenship, transformative learning for your adult classes, transmediality and storytelling. You can immerse your students in situated experiential learning, and you can teach them to manage their time, their studying, their learning process. You can teach them experientially in a virtual destination how to feel compassion, respect, inclusion, how to collaborate and be autonomous at the same time. You can actually teach them to acknowledge cultural identities and to be more aware of them. It's about learning to learn, developing strategies, even doing class research. This is an inexhaustive list. And here you can also see, yes, which approaches you can apply in your class. It is up to you. The possibilities of tasks and approaches are also amazing. You can even carry out dogme lessons or task-based, socio-emotional learning instances of classes. It's up to you. So here are a few words about this EVO experience that I had the opportunity to moderate on this year. Our sessions were called Immersive Learning Experiences in the Metaverse, and I was given the opportunity to moderate with 10 moderators, with 2 guest speakers. We had our own platform. We explored all these environments that you can see, and through quests, hypergriding, simulations, our participants explored Second Life, Frame, Spatial, Spoke, Engage, Blender, and they were immersed to produce their own outcomes, learning outcomes, which will amaze you actually. Here are some examples only, because there are a lot more on our platform, our canvas. This is, for example, Junji's 3D video, which he imported on Spoke and Mozilla Hubs. And on the next slide, you can see different images of creations through Blender, which were exported to Spatial, Open Simulator, Kitely, actually on Edunation. And then our participants exported objects to Frame VR. You can see Jennifer's uncommon school on frames that her students created, and Jessica's frames for young learners. Jennifer is located in Argentina and Jessica is in Venezuela, so they've both been facing connectivity issues, but still, look what they have produced together with their students. Also, Rada Sadler, who could not be with us presenting today because he's traveling back from TESOL International, Portland, he took us on a tour around Spatial, and he emphasized the fact that, yes, he was, Beth. He's been very active. He's particularly active in terms of virtual worlds and now spatial. So ideally, this is our learner's journey in the metaverse. It is characterized by interoperability, which means that the metaverse allows for functionality between the different destinations. This is not always possible, and only some of the biospheres support this feature. For example, SL and OpenSim, you can take out material you have created, which you have full permissions of, and you can export to another destination, or virtual biome, as I call it. Also, another feature is decentralization, ownership of your assets. Blockchain technologies actually build up this feature. Decentralization is also, persistency is also another characteristic of the metaverse, as we ideally see it in the future, which means that there is ownership of our assets, and blockchain technologies. I think I have confused you here. Persistency is a characteristic, which means that your destination, your world, your assets, your sim, whatever you want to call it, is always on unless you decide to remove it, and unless you decide to have an on and off feature. Spatiality suggests that there is interactivity with digital items. They are searchable and findable, and that another characteristic is that the metaverse, or all these worlds virtually, are community driven. There is sociability, and we are a clear example of this, with social experience in the little environments, in the little groups that we support. There is self-sovereignty of identity, reputation, personal, private, persistent, portable, protected, attributable, and that our assets are not hacked. Perhaps not all of these features are currently possible, but they may be technically feasible in the near future, because as I see it, the metaverse is evolving. So is the metaverse real? And how new is it? Well, Stylianos Mistakidis mentioned that it's a concept situated, actually traced back in ancient Greece, years and years ago. But let me also say that in 1938, the French poet Artraud uses the term virtual reality in his collection of essays. There's also Neil Stephenson's book called Snow Cache, which actually visualizes this situation of the metaverse. Rosedale, in 2003, he founded Linden Labs, and he launched Second Life, often described as the first metaverse, incorporating many features of social media. The hypergrid OpenSim architecture is an extension linking your OpenSim to a web of virtual worlds and regions. And there is hypergridding, establishing hyperlinks for user interactivity. It's included in the distribution of Open Simulator at the moment. Please consider completing this brief survey about the use of metaverse in education. It's only 3 questions. It will take you a couple of minutes, and we're going to talk about the results in the end. Here is an indicative bibliography you may want to refer to, and there are some points raised in my presentation that you can find about in this bibliography. Thank you for your participation. We are hoping to see you in EduNation, on Second Life, or in Kitely OpenSim. You can find out about my TESOL activity in virtual reality and virtual worlds on agogipedia.com, or you can watch my past presentation with virtual worlds best practices in education on transmedia storytelling back in 2021. And I would like to, here are some links you can use if you want to find me. And I would like to introduce our next speaker, who is Heike Philp, the lady of our hearts. She's our driving force. Heike is CEO of Let's Talk Online, a technology support provider for language learning and events in real time. She is co-initiator of European Union-funded Lancelot and Avalon, Camelot, which is connected with Machinima for language teachers. And she is founder of the Virtual Roundtable and co-owns EduNation in Second Life. Heike, over to you.
Thank you very much. I'm just going to stand. Hang on. So, and allow me to I'm delighted to take over here with a big round of applause for Helena Galani, who spearheaded our EVO sessions this year. She single-handedly coordinated all of the efforts and organized the meetings. Also, the cluster presentation, as it stands, is her major effort as a team leader, and I draw my virtual hat for this achievement, as you've seen from the slides also. Amazing. So, and Excalibur is the 5th. Let me paste this again. Excalibur is the 5th EU-funded project, which I've been co-initiating, this time with the University of Tampere as a project coordinator. Excalibur stands for Expanding Content and Language Integrated Learning through Building a Sustainable Future in Real Time. It takes place in Minecraft and Mindtest, which is a free of charge open source solution. Helena, do you want to forward the speakeasy, or otherwise you get confused? Okay. Yes, the project is coordinated by Finland, and the official partner institutions are in Norway, Italy, and Germany. That was too fast. Oh, the slides are the other way around. Okay. We also have schools in other countries like France who will participate in our activities for learners, and the partners try to involve school classes and building projects in Minecraft. The project started in March 22 and is a 2-year project. The topic is sustainability, and the pedagogical framework is future-oriented learning. CLIL, for some who do not know, stands for Content and Language Integrated Learning, and is a methodology which implies that a STEM subject, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, are taught in English as a foreign language in any European country. The project is in the middle of its pilot testing phase, and I will be able to let you more about it next year. That's all from the project, I'm afraid. Yeah, these are the partners. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Heike. I'm sorry for the confusion. I had a double slide
No,
here.
don't worry.
Well, let me announce our next presenter. I don't know if Amany has made it. She's been kept behind. She had a flight delay, unfortunately, but we can at least introduce Amany for all the work she has been doing, not only on Evo, but generally speaking on education, language education, and virtual reality. Heike, would you like to say a few words about our coordinator, Amany?
Amany continues to amaze us with her curiosity of educational technology and her love to share her know-how in various communities such as LinkedIn, etc. And she do you want to forward the slides? It's one on Engage. Engage is her platform, and she's kept us on the toes with her tours. There's not a lot more at the moment I can say, I'm afraid. Yeah. Excellent.
And now Barbara McQueen is going to share her experiences next. Barbara, over to you. The floor is yours.
Hello, my name is Barbara McQueen in real life, and Barbara Novelli in every virtual world that I'm in. I've been a language teacher for 4 decades, with over 1 decade teaching in virtual worlds. For Evo, I was asked to present part of the open sim world of Kitely. I have 2 large virtual worlds in Kitely. That slide is not the right slide. Maybe you need to go one more. There we go. So this is in the background Edutopia 2, and Edutopia 1 is my second world, which is designed for lower level ESL students, and you'll see pieces of it on the following screens. My presentation for EVO was scheduled for the third week, and by that time, educators had raised many important questions. So I decided to organize my presentations around answering some of those questions. For this cluster presentation, I will highlight two of those questions. Probably the most asked question is, what does virtual learning offer that other educational venues don't offer? And there are many, many answers to that question. I'm going to focus briefly on what I think are two of the most important answers. If you want more in-depth answers, I highly recommend you take a look at Marie Van's Exhibit 23 in this conference's Desert Hinterlands Park. The slideshow is titled 14 Reasons Why Virtual Worlds Are Still Better Than Social VR World. And I'll show you its complete URL in the transcript here. However, when I need to answer this question quickly, I always emphasize two things. First, with virtual worlds, students are more deeply immersed into actually using a language. And second, using virtual worlds improves many other business and social skills that students will need now and in the future as our businesses and nations collaborate more and more internationally. To illustrate these 2 points, I often point to one of my games on Edutopia 1. The game is called Flashpoint and is pictured on this slide. I ask you simply, which is more immersive? To study vocabulary and text on putting out fires, or to actually put out a fire using those vocabulary terms and concepts as the students do when they play this game? The second most asked question by very pragmatic educators is, that looks fun, but what specific learning objectives can be used in virtual world or can be met in virtual world lessons? My answer is any objective. Since I am a language teacher and I have picked out several very common language learning objectives that virtual world lessons can meet. For example, students will be able to give and follow directions. This is accomplished immediately by properly onboarding learners with some sort of boot camp that takes them through basic virtual world skills like walking, flying, friending, taking pictures, etc. You can quickly test student comprehension by engaging them in an obstacle course or by having them give each other directions by completing some task, like building a treehouse with 7 basic pieces. Their houses may not be beautiful, but they are instructional. The student pair who assembled the tree house shown here suggested it looked like it had been through an earthquake. We laughed and then focused on where their direction giving and direction following had broken down. Beginning, intermediate, and advanced language learners are always asked to improve their vocabularies. This objective can be met by pre- and post-lesson handouts on vocabulary and useful phrases. There are are also many in-world vocabulary building games students can play. I pictured 3 games here. The first game is a definition chart race. Being able to effectively define words is critical for language learners. More than anyone else, they need to be able to define a word when they are at a loss for a specific word. However, they can elicit that word from other people if the students are good at identifying the most relevant categories and characteristics of that word. For example, taste, size, and color can be effectively used to conjure up a lemon. But these categories and characteristics would not be very effective for explaining the word shoulder. Therefore, in this game, students put words and phrases in the correct columns and rows to better understand the many ways definitions can be made. The second game, Aphex Dominoes, is shown on the right side of the screen, the upper right. Students can dramatically increase their vocabulary range if they understand the meanings of prefixes and suffixes and which roots they can be combined with. This giant dominoes game accomplishes that. The third game deals with idioms. The meanings of idioms vary substantially from the literal definitions of the words in the idioms. This concentration game has students try to pair pictures of the literal and figurative meanings of idioms. A third common learning objective for language learners that can be met in virtual learning environments is that they understand when and how to use the 12 English verb tenses. This can be achieved by giving asynchronous access to review centers, like the temple pictured here, and by playing games like modified versions of Rummy, Monopoly, and Jenga. In Grammar Rummy, student teams are dealt 7 cards that they can use to make sentences. Opposing teams add to these sentences with additional cards used as rummies that decrease the original sentence maker's points, as well as adding points to the opposing team's score. The goal is to push students to make longer and longer sentences and use more complex verb tenses. A modified version of Monopoly replaces the community chess and chance cards with cards that give perks and penalties for correctly answering language questions or performing short role plays. In this colorful version of the tower building game of Jenga, students win the opportunity to place a block on the wobbly tower if they can correctly make a conditional sentence that uses the word printed on the block. Moving on to learning objectives for more advanced language learners, many extended role plays can be prompted where students will have to engage in negotiation and compromise. For example, I've created a complex airport scene where students must try to perform tasks that are at cross purpose with other students. For instance, a passenger rushing to board a plane may have to try to convince a gift shop employee to give him a reduced price on an important anniversary gift that might prevent the employee from getting a desperately needed raise. Or an aggrieved customer whose baggage cannot be found might be offered Starbucks coupons by an airport supervisor, although a rash of counterfeit coupons has led Starbucks to refuse to honor any coupons. I've also created a complex medieval power struggle, which spans 2 to 3 lessons. Students must try to earn money, loyalty, weapons, and food and drink to help them win control over the castle of a recently deceased monarch. However, just as in real life, players may lie about their true intentions, and a savvy player must be able to figure out who to trust. Another advanced language learning objective is to have students be able to understand and point out logic errors in the target language. I've created humorous slideshows and games to teach and test the students' ability to do this. Once the students are fairly accomplished at this, I set up crimes that the students try in in-world courts. The students choose different roles and form prosecution and defense teams who must figure out which arguments to make and which questions to ask. The resulting court trial is filmed for the students to enjoy and review. A learning objective for our increasingly global world is to have students understand and illustrate cultural differences in what is appropriate and what is taboo. For example, this should be the next slide. For example, the meanings of smiles and gestures varies between countries, as does how direct or indirect we are and what we value in ourselves and others. To help students better understand what it's like to wear someone else's shoes, I sometimes request them to dramatically change at least 2 of their avatar characteristics, including gender, skin color, age, size, species, and the time period they live in. The collage on the right side of this slide shows some of the many avatars I've inhabited. Language learners who are highly competent can tackle very lengthy projects that require them to determine and delegate the many tasks they must accomplish to reach their goal. For example, student teams may be sent into space to categorize and create new aliens and planets we might live on. Students might also be asked to produce an hour-long news program where they have to research and interview experts in many fields. Or students might be asked to make machinima on idioms or cross-cultural differences or their own original plots. The students will have to storyboard, script, costume, build prop sets for, and film and edit their masterpieces. You can see some of the tools and sets I've created to help students on their journeys. Next slide.
It came in the beginning, sorry.
At any rate, that slide exists, and it is here to show you more examples that can be seen at various links. As with any slideshow like this, I can only present a tiny portion of the options for educators, so you might want to look at a machinima labeled Second Life for English as a second language, which shows students actually taking lessons and their reactions to the lessons. Next is a slide show which has been recorded with voice called How to Get There From Here. which details the many, many tools that can be used and other resources for teachers who are just beginning or are very advanced in using virtual worlds. Then there's the Bowels of Machinima production, a machinima on making machinima. And it walks you step by step through walking your students step by step through machinima production. And finally, there's a machinima called Cultural Collision in Cairo, which was produced by students to show some of the cultural differences between our worlds and the countries we live in within the world.
Barbara, thank you so much for showing us all
You're
your
welcome.
work around virtual worlds, virtual environments. And I would like to invite our next presenter, who is Pionia Destiny, or her real name, Doris Molero. Over to you, Doris. We're all ears.
Well, hello. I'm happy to be here with you, but I will also like to ask for a round of applause for Barbara, because her experience is just amazing. Barbara, you're the queen. And you know, we owe you so much. You know, your work has been extraordinary. Well, my name is, okay, well, let's wait. Let's listen to those applauses, and I jump in also in real life, and I do this, you know, for you. Now it's my turn. So my name is Dr. Doris Molero. I'm a EFL teacher, that also an ESP teacher that works at Universidad San Pablo de Tucumán in Argentina. I'm a migrant, and my original home is Venezuela, where I taught at a university also pre-grade, post-grade, and also doctorate classes for language learning. I will be telling you about our EVO sessions. You know, this happens every year, and is a way to show educators the beauty and the marvels of learning and teaching in virtual worlds. So as you can see from all our presentation, we are showcasing different experiences that we had. So can we move the slide? Oh, okay, so I'm going to tell you about for these sessions, we decided to showcase first, starting with the sessions, all of the examples that we had worked through the years. And one of those works has been Virtually Anywhere. Virtually Anywhere is a project that I conducted in Second Life with my students, and still is an innovative transmedia experience designed for language learning. Through transmedia storytelling techniques, students collaborated to create new fiction based on an existing short audio story. The original audio episodes were developed to aid students in improving their English listening skills. So the story revolves around Gita and Paul, two university students struggling with the archaeology coursework. A mysterious professor offers to help them by taking them on a virtual trip to different sites. This wasn't original, and I said, well, this would work in Second Life so well. So in the original series, the characters visit the Terracotta Army in China and the citadel of Teotihuacan in Mexico. Can we have the next slide? Okay. The project that I worked with my students, involved students from different countries who developed 2 new episodes based on the original ones, featuring sites in their respective countries. The recreated episodes were developed in the virtual world of Second Life, with each episode being represented based on an original story. Visitors to the sites can interact with different materials designed to follow the storyline and solve riddles and clues to find answers. Furthermore, students had the opportunity to learn about real places working in teams to research the different sites. They also collaborated through Google Documents, creating a repository for the information and artifacts they found. As you can see in the slide, we created, there were 6 episodes, and then we added 2 more. One for my students in Germany, that they decided to have an adventure at the Imperial Palace of Goslar, and my student from Argentina at the Pucará of Tilcara. That's a site that is close to the place where I live. Also, working with this project, we had the chance to invite educators from China, Mexico, Germany, and Argentina, because those were the sites that were in the story, to support in the project, and they presented about the archaeological sites in their countries in Zoom and in Second Life. The presentations were given by different educators located in different countries, with Eugenia Calderon from Mexico, and Novak from Germany, Michelle Wan told us about the Terracotta Army in China, and I invited a local teacher from Argentina to tell us about the Pucará de Tilcara. Okay, so okay, where is the next slide? The Virtual Anywhere project has demonstrated the potential of transmedia and virtual worlds technologies in language education. It has provided an immersive and interactive experience that allows students to engage with language and culture in a dynamic and engaging way. By leveraging these technologies, language educators can provide their students with unique and engaging learning experiences that enhance their language skill and cultural awareness. So that was the experience of Virtually Anywhere in Second Life. And we also have the chance to work, well, if you've been to my presentation yesterday, you know a little bit more about this experience. But for the Evo sessions, this was a novelty. And that was the integration of AI-generated art into language learning and the potential to transform the way students learn languages. Thanks to visual representations of language concepts through unique and creative artwork generated by AI, and that they can inspire and motivate learners to engage more deeply with their lessons and practice their skills. Moreover, the interactive nature of AI-generated art can enhance engagement and make language learning more fun. And the key to this was, for language learning, the key or the most important part that we approached was writing prompts. And with this tool, they can use words to enhance language learning, and it provides learners opportunity to practice their writing skills and reinforce their understanding of the language. When used to create text-to-image writing prompts, it can provide a visual representation of the words and concepts being learned, leading to better understanding and retention. Using writing prompts to create text-to-image can be a valuable way for language learners to practice their writing skills and enhance their language learning again. This collaborative project was a creative and innovative way to use AI-generated art for language learning. We use tools like DALL-E 2 and Stable Diffusion to generate the images. And we also had a reflection component where students wrote about their thought process in selecting the words and images. And they can also it could also help them deepen their understanding of the material. The project's output was showcased in an art gallery in both Second Life and Spatial, providing a platform for students to share their work with a wider audience and potentially catalyze further discussion and collaboration. By combining technology with critical thinking and creativity, this project offers a student a dynamic, interactive learning experience. Okay. Participating in EVO 2023 gave us another opportunity to create our own AI-generated art exhibit in the browser-based virtual world of spatials. Here you have the link so you can visit our little art exhibition. Okay, now going back to EVO and EduNation in OpenSim. So this is another experience that we design so our participants will have the chance to experience what was it like to learn in a virtual world. So we design a quest, and since it's a valuable tool for language learners who are looking for an engaging and immersive way to improve their language skills. At the same time, they will learn the basic skills to function in a virtual world, like walking or clicking on posters or working as a team. So for this experience, we designed this quest, and we asked GPT to help me. I asked him because I was working a lot. I have a lot of work. So he just came out with this wonderful idea of a story where the kingdom of EduNation is in peril as the dragon mother of the land has lost her precious egg. And without it, the dragon mother is unable to protect the kingdom from the dark forces that threaten its peace and prosperity. So that was the story behind the quest. And in this quest, these participants were going to visit these different places, and on those places they were going to just discover what other educators have done in these worlds to teach their students. So we started with a landing point where the quest, where the participants were greeted by a dragon guy who gave them instruction on how to begin the quest. They received a map and also the rules of the game. Next, we started our quest, going to the different places. The Wild Giant, that is a scene set by Helena Galani for the Oscar Wilde Transmedia Storytelling Project. We also visited Jack Sparrow's Ship, a pirate scene for storytelling set by me. Arthur Round Table is an Arthurian story set by Heike and her Guinevere project. And also we went through the rabbit hole where participants will have to find their way through a fantastical surreal landscape inspired by Alice in Wonderland, and complete with talking animals and oversized mushrooms. They will have to use their imagination and problem-solving skill to find the second egg. Barbara's Idioms, a linguistic-themed area with lots of puzzles related to idioms and proverbs set by Barbara Novelli. Virtually Anywhere in Kitely, that was also set for the purpose of our sessions on storytelling. Harry Potter's Library, role-playing set also for storytelling. A Million Cats. The Gardens of Serenity, that is a peaceful domed garden filled with beautiful flowers and serene ponds set by Dennis Newson. And also we visited the Arcane Castle, that is also another role-playing set. And we end up at the Dragon's Lair. After the participants have collected all the eggs, they were stopped at the quest there, and they were greeted by the mother dragon, and she would say, "Hear me, brave ones. I, the dragon, am honored to speak with you today, for you have completed the quest for the golden dragon egg with great wisdom and valor. Your courage and determination have been nothing short of remarkable, and your efforts have played a crucial role in protecting the virtual kingdom of EduNation. Know that your journey here is not over, but just beginning. And this is our message for all our participants. This is a journey that is not over. So the kingdom of Edu Nation will always need brave warriors such as yourselves. To keep on. Okay, I'm lost at this. Let me go back to this slide. The kingdom of Edu Nation would always need brave warriors such as yourselves to defend it against any threat that may rise. I, the dragon, look forward to our next encounter where we shall embark on a journey together. May the fire of the dragons forever guide you in your future endeavors. And that's our final message for our participants. And we say farewell, and we hope to see you next year. So, thank you so much. And this was our little adventures in EVO 2023.
Amany, amazing, thank you. Wonderful. That was fantastic. The EVO experience, but also thank you for your presentation, Pio. And over to our last presenter for today. Please give us a bit of time extension here, if possible. And I would like to pass the floor to Georgia Maneta. Georgia, over to you.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, very well.
Okay, thank you. I think 5 minutes are enough for me. I'm not sure what more I can say to all of you. Okay, so hello, hello, I'm Georgia Maneta, and I have been teaching English for over 20 years. I love web tools and education technology. That's why I'm currently doing a master's in immersive technologies and education. So next slide, please. Okay, so for the past 7 years, I have been working in a state primary school based in a village. You can see my school there. There are 65 students. Not all of them have the necessary tech equipment or good internet connection. And of course, they are bored with homework. So back in 2022, I had the chance to attend the EVO 2022 sessions on immersive building in virtual worlds and virtual reality. I learned a great deal of new environments such as Mozilla Hubs, OpenSim, Engage VR, Frame VR, and so on. I instantly took to Frame VR. Well, Frame VR was the perfect tool for my teaching framework for a number of reasons, which you can see. And for me, the most important thing was the fact that students did not need to create accounts. And in Greece, things are not very easy with students, especially primary school students, creating accounts. So our school textbooks contain text on the UK. So I decided to create an interactive frame on the UK, starting with England. My students would probably like it more than the textbooks, of course, and there they could see photos, listen to music, and learn some history. So I invited my students at 2 different specific times to join me in the frame and walk around it and explore it. They found it really easy to move around, use the tools, read and learn. They could join from their tablets or their smartphones. And their reactions were invaluable to me. They kept asking when we would meet again, when they could see a new frame. They remembered things they had just read once. They now know a good deal of things about England and are ready for the next countries of the UK. So, what about the future? Since Frame VR is so easy for both my students and me, I have decided to create other content as well. So this new frame you can see there on the slide is a course on safety and online games designed by me and a fellow student from my master's. The future is here. We have so many amazing immersive platforms where we can create unforgettable lessons. You have seen that already with the other amazing ladies. We just need to make sure that we choose the right one for our students and cater for their needs and level of abilities. Thank you very much.
And thank you so much, Georgia, for sharing your experience with your students. Applause to you too. And may I just add a couple of words before we close this session, that we've had some responses in the survey, whether the metaverse is real or not. Most of you have responded with a yes, you believe it's real. And also, we've had a couple of people say people and actions in the metaverse are real. This is what you believe. But under unreal conditions, some of you said. And then to the second question, if you're using metaverse features, you said yes. Most of you said yes. And finally, if you would consider receiving training, you also responded positively by majority. 6 out of 11, and some of you are already using Second Life apparently, and VR desktop-based environments. I would like to thank you once again for attending and for being patient. I hope you can forgive our pace and enjoy the rest of the conference. Thank you for hosting us, Lorraine. Great pleasure to be with you.
And thank you, Helena and Pionia and Barbara and Heike and Georgia. It was phenomenal. Great to see you all.
Thank you too.